It is really wonderful to have everyone here, in part because about 15 minutes ago with the heat, there were just a handful of us, and I had this feeling that you were all sitting poolside with a large iced tea or something. You want to go? Okay, we're out of here. Bye, guys. So thank you for venturing out, and I hope that we'll all stay safe and cool over this coming week. We certainly listed cooling centers that are available around town. We'll hope the electricity stays on for everyone, and we'll even open up the synagogue a little later in the week if it looks like that's needed as well, whatever's needed, because it's normally just 1 week or like this each summer where we have it, but when it comes, you're like, oh. And at the same time, there is something about the heat of a Shabbat in summertime, which, I don't know about you, but it just feels so good.
It feels very relaxed,
right?
In a way that Shabbat in the winter does not.
No, in the winter you're always trying to stay dry and
crunched together, trying to stay warm.
Yeah.
And in the summer, you can just exhale and stretch out a little bit, and maybe even time slows down a little bit for summer.
I think Shabbat is supposed to slow down, and we're going to turn to page 5, Shalom Aleichem, which is this invocation to the angelic presences of Shabbat, which really are about slowing down and taking notice.
Shalom Aleichem, Alechei Hasharet, Alechei Elyon, Yimelech, Alechei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ochem L'Shalom, Alechei Hashalom,
Melody from Nava Tehillah. We'll turn now to page 11, Lechu Niranana.
Yeah.
Let's read together middle of 11 in the margins under pilgrimage. We may understand our days to be a pilgrimage in time, from the 6 days of the work week to the experience of a day of rest, holy time. The generation that left Egypt and wandered in the wilderness never reached their destination, the place of God's rest. But every Friday evening, we have the opportunity to make the journey anew, this time with an openness that will enable us to truly enter the land and come close to the divine. So I hope that we are all slowly moving towards that pilgrimage of Shabbat and leaving beside whatever the week was, good, challenging. It'll be there on Sunday, but now we get to be together. So we'll turn to page 21, Ms. Moore the David.
Adonai b'nei Elim, Habul Adonai, Kavod v'aos, Habul Adonai, Kavod Shemo, Yishtachavu l'Adonai, Hadrat Kodesh, Kol Adonai, Al Hamayim, HaKavod Hirim, Adonai. Vaishaber Adonai et Arzei Halvanon, Halvanon Yasir Kamo ven Eimim, Kol Adonai, Chof Tel Tav Hareshai, Kol Adonai, Yachachil Midbar, Yachil Adonai, Kadesh, Kol Adonai. Vayeshev Adonai melech leolam, Kol Adonai ahuz le'amo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo, Shalom Adonai yivarech et amo Shalom.
That, of course, is Carl Bach with a little bit more rhythm than he used, which really gives a really lovely flavor to it. We'll continue on page 23 as we move into Lecha Dodi, and we'll do the first two stanzas on page 23 and then turn to 25 for the final two stanzas.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Likrat Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad, Ishmi'anu el hamuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat leuven elcha, במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת חלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת חלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
ימין ושמאל תרצי,
את אדוני תעריצי, על ידי בן פורצי, ונשמחה ונגילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. גם בשמחה וצורה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי הלאה, בואי הלאה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
While we have not had a loss over this past week, I do want to offer communal condolences to the families of Yevgenia Chizik and Marvin Wolf. Hamakom yenachem etchem b'tok sha'ar avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May God comfort their families among all those who mourn. We're going to turn to page 27 for the Psalm for Shabbat.
השבת טוב להודות לאדוני, מזמר לשמך העליון, וזמר לשמך העליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, וזמר לשמך העליון, וזמר לשמך העליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות. עלי אסור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בחינות. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, וזמר לשמך העליון, וזמר לשמך העליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, וזמר לשמך העליון, וזמר לשמך העליון, וזמר לשמך העליון.
Kisamak tani baranai, v'falai maaseh yadak aranam. Yish ba'ala yadak siyah b'frak Hashem yisham. Ki hinei avech aranai, ki hinei avech yovedu yitpadu kovalam. Middle of page 28.
Tzadik katar yifrach, ke'eres uvalon yizke, shetulim bebeit Adonai, u'bechatzrot Eloheinu yafri.
Yashar Adonai Zuri v'lo avlatabo.
Adonai malak yu lavesh Adonai. Mikolot Maim Rabim. Let's join together bottom half of 29. Mikolot Maim Maim Rabim Adirim Adirim Mishpereyam Mikolot Maim Maim Rabim Adirim Adirim Mishpereyam Adir Bamarom Yailai Adir Bamarom Yailai Adir Bamarom Adonai Adir Bamarom Yailai Adir Bamarom Yailai Adir Bamarom Adonai Edo technanu me'od levet chanav HaKodesh Adonai le'orech yamim. Thank you, Beth, for getting us started there. You had quite the adventure traveling on TriMet Lift, and they didn't show up for half an hour. So I'm so grateful that you still made it. And boy, you know, the whole point of Shabbat is letting go of the stress. You had to be so stressed, so thank you just for getting
But then
here.
I get to come here and practice exhaling.
Exhaling is good. So it's a 4th of July weekend. How was everybody's 4th yesterday? That's the best I got from you guys? You were great, Deborah, but it was like a little schwach, was that? I think I understand why, because it's a strange time in the country. And I think in general, when we get to this time and this weekend, 4th of July weekend, it's pretty normal to reflect on what freedom is, as well as the steep price, right? You got to pay to achieve freedom. In Americans' history, of course, we had the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, and each of those highlight, right, that freedom often demands payment in blood. It would be a blessing to live in a world in which freedom was indeed free, but we haven't reached that utopian moment yet. And supposedly, Benjamin Franklin, when leaving the building in which the Constitutional Convention was occurring, was accosted by some citizens who were really curious about the fledgling United States and asked him what sort of government the delegates had decided to set up for America. And the line, which I'm sure many of us know, is, "A republic if you can keep it." Freedom, in other words, is less a state of being than a continual dynamic process. It's why free states often must suffer through all sorts of protests and upheavals. And it's not that every protest points to freedom, but rather they're an expression and use of the freedom that we already have and that we wish to preserve. Freedom's a blessing. I've learned this particularly from a lot of our Russian and Ukrainian Jews who've constantly reinforced that blessing when sharing what life was like for them under the Soviet regime before they emigrated here. And as valuable as freedom is, we should also recall that it is the child of its antithesis. I'm having problems speaking tonight. The bells is acting up. Because freedom arises out of the egg of bondage. And we get this. As Jews, we really get this in our kishkas, which is why traditionally we have been some of the strongest supporters of the United States going back to really the early days of the nation. And so I want to share with you something you may also have heard, a letter written in 1790 by Moses Sextus, who was a shamish or sexton of congregation Kahal Kadosh Yeshuot Yisrael, better known to Americans as the Hebrew Congregation of Newport. And this was a letter he wrote to a guy named George Washington, who was doing a tour of the states in appreciation for all the contributions that the different colonies had done. And in this letter, Moses wrote their Jewish appreciation for the United States and its commitment to, quote, a government which to bigotry gives no sanction, to persecution no assistance. George Washington liked those words so much that when he wrote back, he lifted them almost exactly, and that's why we're familiar with them. But it was written by a shamish at a synagogue. It's impossible, though, I think, to recite those words without just a little hint of wonder or maybe irony, because we're living through a period in which too many Americans are not only giving sanction to bigotry, but are actively participating in it. Yet we understand that if freedom is indeed a dynamic process, a republic if we can keep it, that Moses Sextus's words are both a promise and a commitment that we continually make to keep our freedom strong. With over 100 hostages still being held in Gaza and the empty chair there, we're also reminded that Jewish history is filled with too many examples in which the freedom of captives demanded that Jewish communities pay exorbitant ransoms. At the same time, since freedom and bondage are inextricably linked, one giving rise to another in a continual process, I'd like to share with you a story of hostages, a rather famous one known as the Legend of the Four Captives. And the story is recorded in Abraham ibn Dawud's Sefer HaKabbalah, the Book of Tradition. And the Book of Tradition is a 12th century work of history that attempts to track the different periods of Jewish history going all the way back to biblical times. Ibn Dawud may have gotten some facts wrong here or there. He didn't have the historical tools we do today, but he meant for it to be as accurate as possible, and it was taken that way by many Jews over the years. So to understand the significance of the legend of the four captives, we need to return to Babylonia in modern-day Iraq. The constant conquest in the land of Israel led Jews to settle elsewhere, an old theme of Jewish life, we're familiar with it, and the Roman conquest of year 70 of the Common Era led finally to the dispersal of the Jews, many of whom settled in Babylon, which was a wealthy, advanced society for its time. By the year 220 of the Common Era, the Jews of Babylonia had established our Harvard and Yale in the form of two of the most famous yeshivot in all of Jewish history. One was established in the city of Sura, founded by Rav, known simply as Rav or Rabbi Erika, the other in the city of Pumbedita by Rabbi Judah bar Ezekiel. And each of these would engage in critical, crucial scholarship that would take the Mishnah that was written in Yavna and turn that into what we still today call the Babylonian Talmud. The Judaism we know today, what it looks like, services even, so much of it stems from the work that they did in those two yeshivot, those two institutions of higher Jewish learning. And by the year 550, the Talmud had been completed, and Babylon had been good to the Jews. Yet, as we've seen in contemporary America, sometimes even great and notable institutions of higher learning can stumble or fall. By the 8th century, both of these yeshivot were faced with a serious economic crisis. And to address this should not be a surprise for those involved in Jewish life. They sent their best fundraisers overseas. So who was the development team? The heads of the yeshivot themselves, along with their families. Rabbi Shmaryahu, Rabbi Hushiel, Rabbi Moshe, and one person whose name is lost to history. Do you remember at the end of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century when there were all of these reports of piracy off the coast of Somalia and the Strait of Malacca? Remember those reports? Well, unfortunately, in the 8th century, the Mediterranean Sea was equally dangerous. One, because their ships were not like ours today, but two, because pirates would board ships not only to take booty, but also to capture and kidnap people who they would sell as slaves. And the pirates of those days understood that they could demand large ransoms if they captured prominent Jews. The pirates had a good information system. They had a series of informers who would notify them when a high-profile Jew would be on a particular ship, and in this way, the ship with the 4 rabbis was boarded, and they were taken to the slave markets of Alexandria in Egypt. Rabbi Shmaryahu was ransomed there, but the pirates didn't get the sort of money they wanted for the other rabbis, so they went to the next slave markets in Tunis and Fez. The communities there, the Jewish communities, approached the rabbis and said they would raise the necessary ransom money, but in return, they wanted the rabbis to stay in their communities, strengthen them, and deepen Jewish learning. The rabbis agreed because it's better than being a slave, and they went on to establish important Jewish communities in North Africa, Rabbi Hananel and Hushiel, while Rabbi Moses ben Chanok did the same in Spain, where he ended up getting ransomed. So in this way, Babylon ceased to be the sole center of Jewish learning, while the Jews of Spain and North Africa enjoyed relative blessings of freedom. And there's something rather miraculous about this that we ought to take note of, because just as that was happening, Babylon was crashing. It was going to go from a place of power and might and really sort of fall apart for quite a long time. So yes, we can agree that while being held hostage is a terrible travail, and we know about that today in this moment, history has a way of sometimes surprising us with its outcomes. And so the bondage of these rabbis actually led to the survival and the strengthening of Jewish communities in places where they barely had been established yet. I find that a powerful reminder in this legend that even when things look bad for us, we lack the foresight to know what's going to happen and how the future will unwind. Life always happens in ways we couldn't have fully imagined. And bondage, well, bondage and even anti-Semitism have often been the very conditions that have led to a new flowering of Jewish culture and creativity. And across the country, we're hearing about how Jewish people are engaging, some for the first time in years, in Jewish living. It's a strange mix, bondage and freedom. So as we celebrate American freedom in the country that has been most kind to the Jewish people, it's good to remember and celebrate the continuous process by which we cling to freedom. And remember, regardless of the challenges out there, it's a pretty good time historically to be Jewish. Shabbat Shalom. I'm going to invite you to rise on page 39 for the call to worship the Baruch Hu. Please be seated. We're going to turn just to the next page, 40, for Ahavat Olam, this reminder that the world is permeated with love.
עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, תורתנו למדת, על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, בשוכבנו ובקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך, ובמצוותיך, לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו, חיינו, באורך ימינו, ובהם נגד יומם ולילה.
ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל.
41.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ובשכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לו תותפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. And on our own we continue, v'haya. למען יבוא ימיך ויאמר אלי משה לאמור Adonai Elohechem Emet. We are going to turn now to page 44, Micha Mocha.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא
know the person who composed that melody?
I don't know the name of the composer, but it's based on the tune Los Bilbilicos.
Los Bibili. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Beautiful. Hashki Venu, page 45.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, B'hamidenu Malkeinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, B'hamidenu Malkeinu l'chaim. May the angels ever be on your right side and your left, above you and below you. May they keep you safe from harm, away from all evil. May they stay with you throughout the night, until we see the morning, until we see the morning light. Hashkivenu, Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, B'hamidenu Malkeinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, B'hamidenu Malkeinu l'chaim. Hamidenu Malkeinu l'chaim.
I'm going to ask that we rise for Vishamru, page 46, and one of my teachers.
Oh, you want that one? V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים לעשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש.
We're going to remain standing, Chatzi Kaddish on 46, and then we'll move into our private Amidah, beginning on 47. 46 now.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
ועמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי.
חייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב
ואמרו
אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעלמיה יתברך.
יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי דקודשה.
בריחו
לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה
תושבחתה ונחמתה דהמינן בעלמה.
ואמרו
אמן.
you're still davening, praying, please continue at your own pace. Communally, we'll turn to 53, Magen Avot.
Magen Avot bidvaro, mechayim heitim b'mamaro, ha'el hakadosh she'ein kamohu, המניח לעמו ביום שבת קודשו, כי בם רצה להניח להם, כי בם רצה להניח להם, לפניו נעבוד ביראה ופחד, ונודה לשמו בכל יום תמיד. מעין הברכות אל ההודעות אדון לשלום, מקדש השבת ומברך שביעי, ומניסח בקדושה לעמדו שני עונג, זכר למעשה וראשית.
Kaddish Shalem, page 54.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
Amen.
ועמד יברח רהותי וימליך מלכותי בחיי חון וביומי חון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו
אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולמי יתברך.
יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה.
בריחו.
לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תאמירן בעלמה ואמרו.
אמן.
תתקבל צלות הון ובהות ההון בכל ישראל, קדם אבו הון בשמיא ואמרו.
אמן.
עושה שלום. יהי שלמה רבה משמיא, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו.
אמן.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו.
Amen. This glasses and eyesight stuff gets harder and harder, right? I know. And
I want to
I'm saying
install
these
a
on.
third eye right here that's like a different prescription.
Then you'll just have everything will be blurred. You know how it'll work.
Yeah.
You know, one of the great things about Plaza Shabbat, which seems kind of crazy to say since we should call this Sanctuary Shabbat today, is the meals, the gathering, the spirit of summer. And this year in particular, there are so many people who are helping to make these events by becoming sponsors and really helping extend the reach and the number of people who are coming together. It's really quite wonderful. This week, Stephanie Arnheim and John Sheldon have been good enough to sponsor this Independent Shabbat. I'd like to call you guys up. I thought tonight, since we were indoors and then going downstairs after, we could do the full Shabbat routine as though we were at home, which is candle lighting, Kiddush, and Hamotzi all as one unit. Please rise. You know, you guys, I'm going to put that all on me. You went soft, it's a different melody. It is, you know, this is wonderful. You do get second chances in life. You do it all. I'm going to be quiet. I did want the wine, but you're going to go ahead and go ahead. we're all at home together, which in a sense we are. Thank you, guys. We're going to remain standing. Aleinu on page 56.
Aleinu l'shabeach
Ladon hakol, latet gdula lioseh bereshit, shelo asanu kibrei haratzot, milo samanu kimishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gohor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech, malchei hamachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Al kenika v'lechel Eloheinu.
Katuv b'toratecha Adonai. Where am I? Different book, sorry. Katuv b'toratecha Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed.
V'nehema v'Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz. V'yom hahu, v'yom hahu, yeh Adonai echad.
U'shema echad.
Thank you, Beth. Please be seated. We'll turn to Kaddish Yatom, and on the back of our handouts, of course, we have the names of congregants and family members whose yard site falls at this time. And I'm going to invite people who are also reciting Kaddish to stand and call out the name of the person for whom you're reciting it in just a second. But there are names here of our friends and people we loved, and so just let your eyes, even if you're not saying Kaddish, feel free to let your eyes drift over and remember the people who have really shaped this community and came here before us. All those of us then appear to mourning and observing a yard site. We can find the Kaddish on 58. Yit gadal v'yit gadash shemer haba v'yamad divraku te v'yamlich malchute v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala v'zman kari v'yamru amen. Yehei shemer haba mevarach le'olam olamei amaya. Yit barak, v'yishtabach, v'yit pa'ar, v'yit ramam, v'yit naseh, v'yit hadar, v'yit taler, v'yit halal, shmei d'kudsha b'richu, l'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiram b'yalma v'yimru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'cheim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav, Huya aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'yimru, amen. Please be seated. So again, thank you, Stephanie and John, for making Kiddush, which is for our dinner, our full barbecue dinner downstairs in Bernbach immediately after services, and I hope that you'll stay and hang out in the beautiful, cool, air-conditioned space that Bernbach now is, and enjoy one another's company. Next Friday is going to be a rockin' Shabbat. We got Rock and Roll Shabbat with the Ella Street Band, and we have a lot of sponsors for that. Glenn Koblenz, Mia Burke, Myra Jackson, Alan and Debbie Montrose, Rick and Abby Menashe, Sarah Koblenz, Susie and Bob Fiore, and more of these wonderful Shabbats, Ashkefardi, Hanukkah in July, CNS 150th Shabbat. So lots of opportunities. If you too would like to help sponsor and build this sense of a communal cheer, it'd be great, and you can contact Marlene about that. Wandering Jews is going sailing Registration ends this Monday, so please do so at 3 p.m. I'm looking forward to going on this cruise together. It is the Portland Spirit Happy Hour Sightseeing Cruise. I'm less interested in the sightseeing cruise and just getting to hang out, so come along, bring your Dramamine if you need it, but just come and have a good time. It'll be good. Important, July 8th, 7 p.m., Accessing Trans Healthcare with Talia Buxbaum, CNS member and lead trans health medical provider at her clinic. Talia will provide an overview of the basics of hormonal, medical, and surgical transitioning and answer questions. So all are welcome, adults, youth, parents, interested community members. Coffee. There would be no good day without coffee. And on July 10th, CNS Sisterhood Edition will be having coffee at the Cafe at the J and have a wonderful opportunity to connect with our wonderful sisterhood members. So join them, sip, schmooze, socialize. If you're feeling like you want to give back, a couple of things coming up. You can cook for Outside Inn, Sunday, July 14th, 12 to 2, downstairs, Marla's Kitchen. Rick Botany, as always, has been doing that for a long time and really making a difference for so many. If you prefer something a little quieter and can pull a needle, we've got Shroud Crowd preparing the tachrichim, the final burial garments, and this group just does such beautiful work. It is such a precious, holy, and powerful mitzvah to be part of that. And Rabbi Eve, are you still here? There you are. Berry picking. You want to talk about it? Excellent. Who doesn't like berries? I'm sure there's somebody, but
Hey,
you don't like berries. Okay, Max.
I loved them so much that when I worked as a kid as a berry picker, I ate too many of them.
And you got fired, and that's why you had to pick up the
I
guitar.
just couldn't make any money.
Okay.
It was great, but it was delicious.
We're going to conclude with Adon Olam on 2:11. I'll start slicing the challah for anyone who wants, and we'll wrap it up.
I would love to hear the sound of you singing. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'ed Nasa V'chatzo Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kichlot HaKol Levado Yimlot Nora Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Hoveh Ve'hu Yeh B'tzifara Ve'hu Yeh B'tzifara Ve'hu Echad Ve'ein Sheni Lehamshilo Lehapira Ve'li Reshit Le'bli Tachlit Ve'lo Ha'oz Ve'ha'misra Ve'lo Ha'oz Ve'ha'misra Ve'hu Eli Ve'chai Go'ali Ve'tzur Ha'li Ve'itzara Ve'hu Nisi Umanosli Menat Kosi Be'yom Ekra Menat Kosi Be'yom Ekra Afkiruchi Tishan V'Yaira V'imruchi Geviati Adonai Li V'lo Ira Adonai Li V'lo Ira. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbat. Thank
So nice
you.
to make ruach with you.
It is,
And
I
thank
know.
you for your teaching. And
Oh, you're
it's
welcome.
just, so, I love Friday nights.
Yeah,
It's just
Friday
the
nights are
sweet.
fun.
It was, thank you for having me here.
Is there anything? Oh, you need that? you're going to walk this way with me.
Let's go. I mean, I don't have a ton of dates this summer, and I'm going to be in Bremerton for my baby days because I'm going to get to
What did you walk into?
Promoting.
No, you're right.
Oh, moving. By myself, so that's, you know.
Where are you moving to?
I am officially unpacking in Tannisport.
Oh, where were you?
Selwood.
Oh, that's a big one.
With these two.
You work out there?
But there
I
is
work
one
at
downstairs
19.
also.
Good to see you again.
I love you guys.
Let's go downstairs.
Thanks, Robert. Shabbat
Let's
shalom.
go downstairs.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you hold it
Yeah.
up?
You know, we are. We are. Yep. We keep coming back. It just
Go
feel really comfortable here.
You coming downstairs for dinner?
We are. We are.
Excellent.
We appreciate it.
I think, you know, it's already ready
I am going to
for,
stay
for a challah.
Oh,
Oh! How much do I owe you? That was like my chiropractor does. I think you broke my back or fixed it. Thank you. Wow. Lucky
all right.
me
Can you say
tonight.
Shabbat Shalom,
Oh.
Rabbi?
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi. I can. I can say it. I wasn't sure.
Wait, maybe that's that piece of bread for God.
For God?
Yeah, for God.
I don't know if it's for God, but if you spell God backwards, like it's in Hebrew, it would be.
look up Portland quadrants, and since you now live in Portland, you'll be voting on our newly expanded city council come the fall, where we will have more true geographical representation with a larger city council, that people will represent the places they live, which is, I'm very excited about it.
I love that. Government of the people.
Well, and it's, you know, the new government will be city administrators that manage the nuts and bolts, freeing up the councilors and the mayor to craft policy and communicate with constituents and do all that stuff that's part of good governance.
Yes.
I'm really super high on local politics.
I like that.
I think everything is local at some point.
I think that it is.